A quiet stranger in niqab got stuck with him in the elevator. What she whispered changed his entire life. My name is Adam Hale. I'm 41 years old, divorced, and a project manager at a top-tier construction firm in Chicago. People think I have my life figured out. Colored shirts, a reserved parking spot, and a phone that never stops buzzing. But the truth, I go home to silence. I eat alone, I sleep light, and I pretend like the quiet doesn't kill me. That night was just supposed to be a routine late shift. I was heading back from a site inspection, dirt still on my boots, coffee still bitter in my mouth. I walked into the office elevator, expecting nothing but an awkward minute of silence. But the moment the doors slid open, she stepped in. She was quiet, clothed head to toe in black. A niqab covered her face, only her eyes visible. Gloved hands held a leather folder. And those eyes, they didn't blink much. Sharp, calm, yet holding some weight. Like she was hiding a galaxy behind them. I stepped back politely. Nodded. No reply. Just a slight nod in return. The doors closed. And then nothing. The elevator shook once, then jolted, then froze. A second passed, then 5, then 10. We were stuck. 2. I pressed the emergency button. No answer. Pressed again. Still nothing. The woman didn't panic, didn't say a word. She just stood there, still, composed. Like this wasn't the first time her life had paused mid-moment. Finally, I said, don't worry. I'm sure they'll get us out of here soon. She nodded. Just that. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, not awkward, just heavy, like we both knew this was no ordinary inconvenience. I checked my phone. No signal. She didn't check hers. She just lowered herself to the floor and sat cross-legged, folder still in hand. You okay? I asked. She nodded again. I noticed her shoulders. Slightly trembling now. Not from fear, maybe exhaustion. Do you want water? I offered from my backpack. For the first time, she spoke. Her voice soft, distant, like it had traveled through layers of pain before reaching her lips. Thank you. She took the bottle gently, sipped, and returned it. Then silence again. 30 minutes passed. Still stuck. We began to talk. Nothing heavy at first. Names weren't exchanged. Just life observations. She said, "Funny how people only notice silence when it's shared." I looked at her, surprised. There was wisdom there. Pain, too. Her tone wasn't bitter. It was surrendered. I told her I hated elevators. She smiled under the niqab. I could see the slight curve in her eyes. I like them, she said. No one pretends here. That made me stop. She asked about my job. I told her about managing a project that would never really be mine. She said she used to design buildings before pausing. Before? I asked. She didn't answer. An hour passed. It was quiet again, but now a comfortable quiet, like two strangers had made peace with the time the world gifted them. Then, suddenly, a small whisper, not loud, not meant for advice, not even meant for me, maybe. She whispered, "Sometimes Allah stops the elevator, not to trap you, but to pull you out of a fall you never saw coming." My chest tightened. I didn't understand why. But those words hit harder than anything I'd heard in months. 2. I sat down beside her. 2 strangers, 1 elevator, no names, just breaths. She didn't speak again. 2. Finally, the power returned. A buzzing light, the elevator moved. Ding. We both stood. Straightened ourselves. The doors opened. She walked out first. But before disappearing into the crowd, she turned slightly and said, "Don't forget what was whispered in stillness. That's where the real lessons hide." And she was gone. 2. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the woman in the niqab, not in a romantic way, not like the movies, but in that rare, sobering way when a stranger leaves behind something inside you that doesn't let go. Her words haunted me. Tor. Sometimes Allah stops the elevator not to trap you, but to pull you out of a fall you never saw coming. I kept wondering, what fall? Whose fall? Hers? Mine? Maybe both. The next morning, I showed up at work an hour early. Not because I had deadlines, but because I wanted to see if she'd return. Same elevator, same time, she didn't come. Day after day, nothing. I started asking around discreetly. Hey, has anyone seen a woman in black? Niqab, gloves, quiet. Most people looked at me like I was imagining things. A few remembered her faintly. Oh yeah, she was in the lobby last week. Looked like she was delivering something maybe. I followed that clue. Talked to the front desk guard, Samir. He pulled out the delivery log. There it was. Name Zaina H. No number. No address. Just a signature and a company name in faded ink. The Crescent Design Studio. That's when I began digging. It took hours. Calling, cross-checking, LinkedIn stalking. The Crescent Design Studio had shut down 3 years ago. Its owner, Zaina Halim, a graduate of architecture, used to design award-winning libraries and children's centers, featured once in a magazine under Top 10 Visionary Muslim Designers to Watch. And then, nothing. Silence. She'd vanished off the grid. A week later, I found an old article. A short piece hidden deep in a community blog. Chore. Tragedy hits young architect's firm after brother's death in fire accident. There was a photo, slightly grainy, but unmistakable. Same eyes, same woman. My heart twisted. Zaina had a brother. They'd started the firm together. But he died in a gas explosion on site. They said Zaina never returned to the field after that. Not even to collect her remaining payment, the blog said. She stopped speaking to the press, moved to a quieter life. Rumors say she now tutors refugee children in a downtown shelter. That's where I went next. It took another week of asking, knocking, searching. The place was a small, faded building tucked between 2 parking lots. Smelled like old paper and hope. Kids laughed behind glass doors. Crayons scattered. Charts hung with crook tape. A soft voice read out loud in Arabic from inside. I stood in the hallway, watching. It was her. She sat among a group of kids on the floor, pointing at pages. Same niqab, same gloves. But now, her eyes were smiling. Fully. Like something inside her had healed, or at least accepted its scars. 2. I didn't go in. I waited until she stepped out after class. She saw me, paused. No fear, no surprise. Just recognition. You found the whisper, she said. I nodded. I didn't know what it meant at first, I replied. And now I think, maybe you weren't just whispering to me. She smiled softly under the niqab. I wasn't. We sat outside on the steps, old bricks beneath us, the sun setting behind steel towers. She finally told me her story, of the firm, of the accident, of the guilt that drowned her every day since her brother's death. He was supposed to be on vacation that day. She whispered, but he came in for me. I'd forgotten to send one final invoice. One stupid piece of paper. Her voice cracked. The first time, I didn't say anything, just sat there, still, like she had in the elevator. And then I said, you never fell. You paused, and she turned. Maybe both? I asked her why she helps kids now. She said, because silence makes monsters. And if I can give them enough language, enough color, maybe they won't grow up thinking their pain is a secret. That stayed with me. We didn't exchange numbers, didn't plan to meet again. But that one conversation changed something in me. I started going home a little earlier, stopped canceling calls from my daughter. I even began painting again, something I hadn't done since college. Not because I wanted to fix my life, but because I realized something: true healing doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it wears gloves. Sometimes it covers its face. Sometimes it rides in elevators and whispers only when you're still enough to hear. 3 months passed. 3 long, quiet months. I thought about her less. But not because I forgot. Because something in me had settled, as if the version of myself who met her in that elevator had evolved. Bit by bit. Gracefully. Without a fight. Then came the day I saw her again. Not in an elevator, not by accident, but in a gallery. Mine. Yeah, I'd gone back to painting. Started small, old brushes, cracked palettes. Then one day, I submitted a piece anonymously to a local Ramadan exhibit. The theme was stillness in chaos. I painted a black elevator, one light above, 2 shadows inside, a man, a woman, facing away. A whisper between them, represented by gold threads stitched across the canvas. It was the most vulnerable thing I'd ever put out. Opening night. I stood in a corner, pretending I wasn't the artist. And then I saw her, Zaina, standing in front of that painting, still, motionless. She looked like a part of it, like she'd stepped out of the frame. She didn't turn around, didn't speak, just raised her gloved hand slowly, touched the gold thread in the painting with one finger, and whispered, "You painted the silence." I walked toward her. "I hoped you'd see it," I said. "I almost didn't come," she replied. "I almost didn't submit." We both smiled. I asked her if she wanted to grab coffee. She didn't hesitate. "Only if it's silent," she said. So we sat in a corner cafe, barely talking. She took her tea with honey. I didn't ask questions, but her presence felt like a long prayer answered. Over time, silence became our language. We met again, and again. Sometimes at the shelter. Sometimes in parks. Once in a bookstore where she showed me her favorite architecture books. Pages bookmarked with tiny notes like, "Chore, this window was designed for grief." What a chore. Notice how this hallway bends like someone leaning in to listen. She saw emotion in bricks. Poetry in shadows. She taught me that love isn't always loud. That some souls arrive to remind you how much weight a whisper can carry. One evening, I told her about my mother. How I'd disappointed her. How I'd lost her years ago, emotionally. After quitting a corporate job to become an artist, she never forgave me for wasting my degree. Zaina just nodded, then said, "Sometimes parents love the version of us they dreamed about, not the one that actually shows up." I exhaled. Hard. She didn't try to fix it, didn't suggest solutions. She just let it hang, like a painting. Unframed, but honest. A few weeks later, something happened. I got a call from a woman named Miriam, who ran an urban renewal project in the city. "We're building a new community library in the East End," she said. "A safe space for immigrant women and children. Zaina recommended your artwork for the main gallery." I was stunned. She recommended me. She said your work understands silence. The project became our quiet collaboration. I painted. She designed. I watched her sketch blueprints the way others wrote poetry. Her hands always moving. Eyes scanning empty spaces with purpose. Once, I caught her redrawing a staircase for the 4th time. "It's not safe enough," she muttered. Then admitted, "My brother died on stairs. I overthink them now." I didn't say a word, just sat beside her and waited, because I'd learned from her that healing never rushes. It only flows when you give it room. 2 weeks turned to months. Our names became paired on emails. People assumed we were partners, professionally, but somehow that title never fit. We were two survivors of different storms, held together by one whisper in one elevator. Then one day at sunset, as we stood inside the near completed library, she turned to me and said, "Adam, do you believe Allah sends people for a season or a purpose?" I paused. "I think some people are the purpose." Her eyes didn't flinch, didn't shy away, and then, finally, she pulled down her niqab. Not for the world, just for me. A quiet reveal, sacred. A moment shared only by souls who understand silence. The library opened on a cloudy afternoon. No ribbon-cutting ceremony, no TV crews. Just the soft hum of children's voices echoing off freshly painted walls. Books stacked, art hung, windows wide to let the light in. Zaina and I stood in the hallway, the one she designed to bend, to embrace silence, the one I had filled with paintings that no longer needed loud colors. 2. A little girl ran past us, laughing. Zaina smiled. "This is what we built." She whispered. "No," I corrected gently. "This is who we are." She didn't reply. Didn't have to. That was always her way. Later that evening, we sat on the roof of the building. She in her quiet grace, me in my cluttered thoughts. She handed me a folded note. "Open it when you get home." I didn't argue. I never did with her. When I got back to my apartment, I unfolded it with trembling fingers. Inside was a simple message, handwritten. To Adam. People think I speak softly because I'm shy. But the truth is, I speak softly because I listen loudly. And the day we got stuck in that elevator, I heard something in your silence that healed something in mine. You never asked for my story. You just held space for it. That was louder than any question. I don't know what tomorrow holds. But I do know this. If I have to be quiet the rest of my life, I'd rather do it next to someone who finally made silence feel like home. Zaina, I sat there for hours. Reading, rereading, breaking, and healing at the same time. The next morning, I returned to the library. Found her sitting in the main gallery, the one that had our elevator painting. She didn't move. Neither did I. I walked over, sat beside her, took her hand gently. She didn't flinch, didn't let go. And then, for the first time since that fateful elevator day, I whispered back, "Tor, you made silence a safe place again." She closed her eyes. And in that moment, I realized something. Love doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes, it arrives with a whisper in an elevator. Wrapped in a niqab, with a name that echoes like a prayer. If this story moved something in your heart, if you've ever found healing in a stranger's silence, then don't forget to share this moment with someone who needs it. Like the video, tell us in the comments what part touched you the most, and hit subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us sometimes it only takes one whisper to change an entire life. Subscribe now and become part of our growing family of souls who still believe in quiet kindness, unexpected love, and the magic hidden in everyday moments. We'll meet again in the next story.